So we're at the end of 2019, and here is my top 10 movies. Now, a caveat to this, these are movies that I saw in the theater or that I have reviewed. There are some other movies that came out in 2019 that I didn't get the opportunity to see or that I didn't get the opportunity to review. So I'm not going to include any of those. I've linked all of the reviews to these movies in the description below, because in this, I'm not going to tell you whether or not they're family friendly, and I'm not going to go really in depth on each of them. But I do want to give you some highlights on why I think the movie is great or why I really enjoyed it. And then, you know what, also, I'm sure I have left things off that is on your top list. Guaranteed. Hands down. I know that. And that's okay. You have your list. I have mine. I hope you enjoy mine. But let me know what would be on yours in the comments below. I've put these in kind of an order. I'm not exactly sure. I might move some around just in my head even after doing this. But so it's kind of a rough order. So just kind of go with that. I'm not saying that, you know what, number 10 is the worst of the best. It's just, that's just kind of where I put it. So we good to go? Okay, so my number 10 of 2019 is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Tom Hanks killed it in this. I absolutely love the story. I love Mr. Rogers, and I loved last year in 2018, the Won't You Be My Neighbor. That documentary was stellar. As I said in that, it should have been required viewing, or it should be required viewing by everyone. Same with A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It was just a really feel-good story with a great message. I had a blast watching it. It was sad, but it was moving, and there are points in it where I think are just very poignant, especially when I think of at the very end of the film where Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers is sitting there playing his piano as the lights in his studio are turning off and off and off. And all of a sudden you hear the dong, and he plays all of the low notes. And right there, you see his humanity. That he, as he told the writer, that he sometimes gets angry. And that's okay. But what do you do with that anger? How do you react? How do you channel that? And right there, again, it shows his humanity. I thought it was a lot of fun, a great movie, great performances, and just a wonderful cast as well. So, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, my number 10 of 2019. Number 9 is The Farewell. Oh my gosh, Awkwafina knocked this out of the park. And I'm not a huge Awkwafina fan, but she just killed it. I loved her in this. I loved the entire family dynamic as they deal with grief or impending grief and just the struggle of, do we tell our relative who is dying or who is sick that she is sick? Or do we keep it from her? And you have the East versus West mentality and the culture clash there of Awkwafina being like, that's not cool. You need to tell her. You need to tell grandma that this is what's going on. And the rest of the family are like, no, we don't do that. Why tell her? She can't do anything about it. It's just going to make her life miserable. And the whole thing, wonderful. The wedding scene, one of the best. And I loved the drinking game. I don't know what the rules were. I don't know what was going on, but the one dude, he's losing just constantly. The whole thing was just really well executed. We bought it because we're going to watch it again and again. It was just really good performances. Absolutely loved The Farewell. So number 8 on my list, and this may piss people off because it's so kind of high on the list or low on the list, I guess, depending on how you look at it, but it's Joker. Now, Joaquin Phoenix killed it. Loved him. I loved the social commentary on this. His performance was so good. And I think that's where it's really going to stand out in all of my movies, is that there are some really great performances. But Joaquin Phoenix did such a good job in this. I mean, he truly crafted a character. And it's not even fair to compare him to Heath Ledger. They are different performances. They are different people. They are different characters, even though it's the same character. Does that make sense? I mean, his laugh, his backstory, just the way that Todd Phillips framed everything and just built this person, I loved it. It was so well done. And again, I said it before, I don't understand the controversy and the fear that everybody was having around this film. It wasn't going to incite violence. There are so many more movies that even talk about inciting violence than this one. Yeah, people overreacted. The screening in my area even got canceled. I'm not exactly sure why, but I think it was because of fear of violence or something. It's just downright dumb. If you have not seen Joker, you need to see it. It is so well executed and just beautifully crafted, and Joaquin Phoenix killed it. So number 7 on my top 10 of 2019, Avengers Endgame. What? How can you put that on your top 10 list? That was just a fan service movie. Dude, I'm totally a fan. I loved it. That movie was made for us. And it was a great just ending to this really long stretch of movies that we had. Are there flaws to the series? Are there even flaws to the movies? Sure, but that's okay. I had a blast watching it. This is one of those reasons that you go to the movie to be utterly entertained. And come on, who didn't cheer when Captain America grabs Mjolnir? Is that how you say the hammer, and Thor's like, I knew it. I mean, come on. And then the line that we're all waiting for, Avengers, assemble. Yes, finally. I mean, it's just the chock full of awesomeness. And every single time I watch it, Tony at the end making me cry. And that's the mark of a great movie, of an entertaining movie. And that's why it's on my list, because I had a blast watching it. So number 6 on my top 10 of 2019 is Ford v Ferrari. This came later in 2019. Matt Damon, Christian Bale, loved it. Based on a true story. Some of it's probably embellished, some of it probably even made up. But I loved it. I loved their chemistry together. I loved the action sequences, how they filmed it, you put us in the car, you put us outside of the car. We get to feel the speed, just everything about that. And Christian Bale was truly the standout for me. His performance was spectacular. Ken Miles, I mean, he just a brilliant man. I don't know if he was in real life, but in the movie, he was brilliant, or he's brilliantly crafted because of just his dedication, his drive. And he wasn't a likable person, which I think is even harder to do, that you have somebody that you're totally rooting for, that you're just endeared to, and yet is abrasive and just kind of like, oh, I want to keep you kind of at an arm's length there. And then, I mean, Katrina Balfe, Noah Jupe, just all of the characters together just added so much. And Josh Lucas, oh, I want to punch him in the neck. But everybody, again, all of the characters combining to make such a wonderful movie. Very entertaining. And I think even if you don't like cars, if you know nothing about racing, if you know nothing about cars, it doesn't matter. The performances, the story is the reason to watch. So we're halfway through the list. Number 5 of my top 10 of 2019, Honey Boy. Oh, Shia LaBeouf just killing me in this movie. I mean, his story, so good. And oh wait, it's the second movie with Noah Jupe, right back to back. He did a phenomenal job as well. And Lucas Hedges too. I mean, I'm not taking away from any of their performances, but Shia LaBeouf as the writer, as his story, as this semi-autobiographical just retelling of a portion of his life. Talk about brave. I mean, you see just him opening up, cathartic moment to just say, this is who I am. This is how I am, and this is how I got to be where I am. I mean, that's brave. And it is a joy to watch this, but it is also something I can't watch again. My heart couldn't take it. To watch the young boy just take what he takes and to be treated how he's treated, and knowing that there is a better way to do it. And yet his father either doesn't know how, doesn't want to know how, doesn't care to know how. Whatever that is, Shia LaBeouf, as a young one, grows up, and now we get to see him as an adult succeeding, and he kills it. I'm so glad I got to see Honey Boy. If you have not seen it, because it didn't get a wide release, at least in my area, it was at some indie theater on just very brief showings. I was lucky enough to catch it. If you haven't seen it, if it didn't play in your area, when it comes on demand or when it comes to Netflix or even Redbox or anywhere else that you happen to catch your movies, watch it. Even if it's just once, because you will not go wrong with this. It is so well crafted. Number 4 on my list for top 10 of 2019 is Parasite. What a wonderful social commentary. It is Korean, it is so well crafted, and when I went in, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was going to watch a horror film, if it was going to be a thriller, if it was a drama or a mystery, and it really shocked me and surprised me in such a good way because of the deep meanings that it held in the story. The haves, the have nots, that struggle, and then even being content with where you are or always wanting more. Just, it's so relevant today. Just the class war that goes on. And then, do we even the classes? Do we make them one class to make it fair for everybody? Or do we keep them separate because based on your hard work? It raises all of these questions, and it is so well acted. And the twist, the turn at the end, just kills you. It's so powerful. If the movie doesn't make you stop and think and cause discussions, and I don't think you're paying attention to it, you really need to give Parasite a try and check it out. If this is your first foray into foreign films or Korean films, oh my gosh, there's so many that are awesome to watch. But let this be a great entry into it because it is truly worth it. Number 3 on my list in my top 10 of 2019 came early in 2019. It's Fighting with My Family. And I know what you're thinking, what, a wrestling movie is on here? I mean, I don't watch sports, first off, and then I don't watch wrestling. Oh my gosh, though, the story is so good. I mean, I was just enveloped the entire time. I actually just recently rewatched it and loved it all over again. You have Florence Pugh portraying real-life wrestling star Paige and her entire family. She comes from a wrestling family, and just that dynamic, her struggling to make it, and then if she does make it and what that means for her family, just that entire story. So good, so funny too. Stephen Merchant directed this, and because it's based on a true story, you have some touchy moments there because the parents, the whole family, they're not well polished, and they didn't come from like just upstanding individuals, let's say. But that's okay. They are definitely redeemable, redeemed, and so good to watch. Nick Frost, Lena Headey, even The Rock is in this, and Vince Vaughn killing it in this. I'm not a massive Vince Vaughn fan, but I loved him in this film. Just the subtlety that he brings to his character and the drive and that dry sense of humor also, just that sarcasm that's underlying. It was wonderful to watch. The whole thing is just a beautiful story. It is a lot of fun. There's great wrestling scenes in there, which is, if you don't like wrestling, well, it's okay because it's just some fun action. But then you mix in the comedy, the drama, even some sadness and some heart-wrenching moments. All of that combines to just make a really well done film. Number 2 on my top 10 of 2019 is Taika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit. This social satire is so good. Oh my goodness. So funny, so well executed, and really poking fun not only at Hitler and World War II, but just at anybody who looks down on people. And just, you're different. You're not good. No, so good. And then, come on, Sam Rockwell. Dude, that man makes every movie he's in better. And I loved all of it. The social commentary is the reason to watch, but the comedy, the heartfeltness, the performances are definitely the reason to stay watching because it is so just well done. The entire story. We see Jojo, the main character, his boy, and just his transition from hardcore, staunch Nazi wannabe to redeemed character. And I loved it. I love the fact that we get to see that transition and then the influence that his mom, Scarlett Johansson, has on his life. And I believe her name is Thomasin McKenzie, is also spectacular in this. I mean, she brings humanity. She brings some power to her, some bite, and just some love also. And I love just as everybody works together in this film, it's wonderful. And Taika Waititi as Adolf Hitler, the imaginary friend of Jojo, he kills it. And he had to have had a lot of fun filming this because he gets to be just zany, off the wall, and totally making fun of it. And some of it is played up for ridiculousness because it needs to be. It is showing the ridiculousness of those views that they held, that the Jews or anybody else was less than. And I love that, just everything about this film. It definitely worth watching more than once, and something that if you haven't seen should be on your must-watch list. Before I get to my number one of 2019, I do have an honorable mention. And it's an honorable mention because I don't believe that it was actually released in the theaters, but it is Marriage Story on Netflix. Oh, my goodness. The acting in this, the story, oh, talk about rip your heart out, squish it all, do a jig on it, then try and piece it back together and put it back in your chest and go, okay, thanks for playing. It is so well done. And let's just talk about, first off, the acting. Scarlett Johansson, Adam Driver. On their scenes, I thought that some of it had to be ad-libbed because their monologues, their acting back and forth, I mean, just their words. No way in the world could this have been scripted. It's confirmed. It was all word for word script. Oh, my goodness. There's a powerful scene with Scarlett Johansson talking to Laura Dern as a lawyer, and just her conversation, and it's a long continuous shot. Loved that. But even more powerful is an apartment scene that is Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver having an argument. And wow, it is brutal. I mean, it is, and it stings of realism. And you just, some of the things hurt so bad that come out of their mouth. And their performances are amazing. I mean, this is just a well done film. And I love that it's a story about divorce. It is the disillusion of a union, but then while also trying to keep a family together. That's tough too, because they have a child. They want this child to have a family. They don't want it to be ripped apart, and just the child, who is the most important thing, even though the relationship is going away, to be just destroyed in the midst of that. And the fight that they have to keep that unit together, so powerful. And it's amazing to watch them as they fight, but then also still care for each other at the exact same moment. Oh, brutal. If you haven't watched Marriage Story on Netflix, make sure you grab your tissues, make sure you're in a secure spot in your just emotional state, then sit down and watch it. And then after that, watch something really happy or funny to just kind of break you out of that funk that you could be in. But oh my goodness, the performances, the movie making in this, spectacular. So the number one on my list for 2019 is The Peanut Butter Falcon. Now, surprisingly enough for me, this made it into my top 10 of all time. I loved this film. It's a retelling of Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer, and there are problems with the film. I'm not saying it's a perfect film, but I absolutely loved it. Shia LaBeouf in this, again, is a rough character who has a heart of gold buried somewhere deep inside. And Zach Gottsagen, that dude is awesome. I don't know if half his lines are ad-libbed or if they're not, but I don't care. He killed me in this. He is just brings so much heart and humor at the same time that you can't help but root for this guy. And it doesn't matter that he has Down syndrome. That is not even a point in this film. He is an awesome individual who is so pure in his joy and his love and his drive, and he calls you out on your crap. And he is a truly good character. I loved him in this. Dakota Johnson too. I'm not a huge fan of her, but she endeared me in this. I mean, I rooted for her as well, and she grew on me, and just the three of them together, just so heartwarming, wonderful to watch. The Peanut Butter Falcon is definitely an indie film that you should watch. I mean, truly, it made it, for me, on my top 10 of all time, not just as my top movie of 2019. And I know I've had some conversations with some people that are like, nah, I just didn't like it. I don't know, give it a rewatch. Maybe it'll change your mind. Maybe not. So that's my top 10 plus an honorable mention for 2019. I'm sure that I have things that would never make it on your list, and I'm sure that I've also left off things that are absolutely on your list. I would love to know what's on your list. What are your top 10? Let me know in the comments below. I'm sure that I probably agree, and my list was really big, and I struggled for months to knock some of these out because they were sitting there. They were like, oh yeah, this is definitely going to, and then as November came around, it was like, oh no, nope, this got to go because this movie's replacing it. And so I struggled, and it was hard. Even up until today, I was moving things around, but I would love to know what are on yours. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. Thanks also to all of my subscribers and my loyal viewers. I love chatting with you in the comments. I love just the interaction, the conversations that we have. You make this so much fun and totally worth it. I hope you had a great 2019. I am really looking forward to 2020. There are already a handful, maybe even more, of really great films that I am anticipating. Well, I hope they're great. I'm anticipating that they're great. I can't wait to see them. Thanks for joining me. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me.